Hey Stitch Cutie, welcome to the tutorial for the Boo Crew Block 3. We're here with the famous Julie Love and she's going to give us some tips on machine applique. So Mom, take it away.
Hi everyone. Okay, one of the things I've been asked is what was I using for a stabilizer when I'm doing this stitching for these. What I like to use is a surprising little thing. It's kind of like wax paper. It's from Sam's or one of your big box stores, and it is just a sandwich wrapper.
It's deli paper.
Deli paper. It's smooth on one, well, it's smooth on both sides, but it's kind of waxed on this side and not on the other. It is enough stability for your blocks when you're stitching, and it also tears away without distorting your stitches. That's the main thing we want, is to be able to remove it without distorting our stitches on the top, which is something that if you use some of the other more like interfacing type things, when you tear it away, even though they say it's tear away, it usually will distort your stitches. So that's why I like to use this. So check it out and see how you like it. Now this block, if you'll notice, is very simple, as I think all applique is. Mostly I stitched it in black, and I used a relatively small stitch because I really wanted the black to show up a little bit more because the ghost is so transparent. So anyway, as before, you want to start with things that are underneath and come forward, but because I have my machine loaded with black thread, I'm going to give you a few tips on stitching some of the things in the back, and maybe normally I would start probably with this little white on the candy corn. I'm not going to do that today because I think you can handle that, and then I would do the flesh.
And actually, did you know you didn't even stitch the white on the candy corn?
No. Shame on me. So every now and then I guess I make a mistake, you guys.
Oh, I thought you did it intentionally because it would just be like one little bite.
No, but I should have stitched it. So anyway, I'm going to start right here today on his legs, because what you'll want to do is just decide where the middle is and draw with a little pencil. Just draw a little line. Now I have shortened...
And it is on the placement guide as well if you want to use your light box and trace it.
Okay. What you'll want to do is shorten your stitch length. As I said, I used a little bit shorter length on this.
So you're at a 2 by 1.5.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to line my needle up so it matches my little drawn line, which I think that does. Yep. And then I'm just going to follow that line. This is just like if you were doing your shapes. And this, in fact, if you want to practice, anytime you want to practice applique, you can just use a piece of fabric and draw some lines on it and just follow it. Pretend like you're following a squiggle for your, like a shape. And it's just a good practice to be able to follow a line. So I'm going to come around here without stopping my thread and actually do this little bit right here.
So your needle is always on the outside of your applique piece when it's doing the straight stitch part of this stitch. And so the only time your needle is actually going to pierce your fabric is on that bite end that it does, correct?
It's going to pierce the applique piece. Is what
right, when it does the bite end.
Yeah. See how it's right on the edge. If you are piercing your applique shape, you're going to end up shredding it. In fact, maybe I'll do that and show you what happens.
Oh.
No?
Really?
Don't do that?
I was kind of going to keep these blocks.
Okay. Okay, I won't do it. But trust me, if you do that, you don't get as nice of a look and it shreds. I had somebody one time tell me, all your pieces are raggy. They don't look raggy, but they're raggy when I stitch them. Well, that's because your needle is touching on the edge and it will rag.
So the needle is always just on the outside.
Right, and it's really just the needle, the width of the needle. Let me show you on this white.
I was going to say it'll be really easy to see here.
I'm going to start, you won't be able to see it as well up here on this black part, but let me just get this adjusted really good right here. I always put my needle down first to make sure that I'm in the right place, okay? So now there we go. You'll be able to really see what I'm talking about when we get to the white, where it's white on white.
And I'm getting in as close as I can for you all with the camera.
You see that? It is right on the edge. And normally I would have already had his arm sewn, but just because that's one of my weird little quirks. I think it helps anchor the edges of the threads, but it's okay.
So essentially, you start the same way we do the applique pieces. They're numbered 1 through, like I think this one has 20 or so pieces. You basically start stitching the same place you have number 1.
Pretty much, yeah.
So you can follow the numbers on your placement guide for stitching. Now you can skip ahead, obviously, you know, instead of changing your thread so much, and pick like do all of the black from start to finish, and then change your thread colors.
So see how nice that came down there? That looks really good. Now, one thing I did on this, on mine, I stitched the pumpkin in orange. I think if it were me doing this again, like right now, I would stitch the pumpkin in black.
Well, why don't you stitch them real fast so everyone can see?
And actually, I noticed something else on this. The photograph was taken before the little
Before you
embroidery.
stitch the...
Before the embroidery. Those are pencil lines, guys. Please stitch yours.
Oh, that's funny.
I just noticed that. How many times have I looked at that pattern?
A lot.
A lot. Yeah.
So will you show us the pumpkin in black if you don't mind?
I will. So where I would start this pumpkin, had I thought of this beforehand, I would have just stopped right here, made that stitch, and then turned and pivoted to get over here to this pumpkin. But hindsight,
Oh,
right?
well.
Isn't that what they say? Okay, again, put your needle right there. And now, when you're doing this, you really do have to pay close attention. And sometimes a little tip is if you have something that there's not a lot of contrast in the background in your applique piece, you can take, I would use a mechanical pencil and do just a very fine line right on the very edge. It's going to be covered with your thread. I mean, you do need to take that into consideration, what color your thread is. But that's one thing you can do is actually...
To give yourself an easier...
If you're, you know, to watch, just so you can see where you're going. It's very hard sometimes when the colors, the background and the other
And can you also
match.
talk to us about... I'm going to back up and show everyone your hands when you're doing this. Your technique for pivoting and using the needle up and down.
Yes, and normally, I mean, this machine, I don't have the foot pedal attached to it. I just, ever since they came out with these without foot pedals, I don't attach foot pedals because I feel like I get more control over the machine by using my hand.
And as you can tell, her buttons have worn off because she truly does use the buttons so much.
Yeah, and I've actually worn off pretty much every machine I own. This machine is probably one of the ones that I've used the most, probably for applique. But also, you see I'm using my hand to raise and lower the presser foot. That's just because Brittany and I are sitting here so close, I can't reach the knee lever with my knee. And
The knee lever?
The knee lever right
A
here.
lever. I was like, what?
Yeah, because I would knock Brittany into the next room
Please don't.
and jar the camera and everything. So I'm using my hand to do that, which, you know, if you have a push button on your machine and you haven't used it, I would encourage you to try. It is something it takes a bit to get used to.
I think once you do it, though, you'll love it.
Yeah. So see, I'm not going to
compare.
snip that thread now. But see how much better that pumpkin looks than this one? Because it's done in the black. It just gives a little more contrast. You'll be able to see it better.
I wonder what we did in the embroidery machine. I usually make it match yours.
I don't know.
I think you went back after this picture was taken and stitched in black.
I did. I stitched a straight stitch all the way around it. So if you do that too, and you would like to accent something better, you can stitch just with a straight black stitch around, and that'll bring it out some more.
And you're making this your quilt, so you can change the colors however you'd like in terms of the thread, obviously.
Exactly. Do what you like. Now, the one thing I do have a tip for doing this little flower up here,
The little
or
pom-pom
on the top, I'm going to switch to a straight stitch. And I have it on 2.2. I'll leave it there. What I will say about this one is, when you're doing something like this, it's much easier to me to go all the way across and then back down, and then all the way up and then over, and then all the way back down here. Do you see how, kind of give yourself an idea on how you're going to follow your path? So essentially, I'm going to go from here to here, backtrack again to the center, over here to this one, back down here, down this way. over here to the middle, and then all that's going to be left is this one, and then back to the middle, and then back up here, because I will not have stitched it
I was
twice.
gonna say you want to have, so basically everything will have 2 lines.
Two stitches on it.
If you remember last month on Frankenstein, you went over it twice with the machine on the accent lines on his face to give that dimension. So essentially you'll do that here.
Another thing though, actually, you could start in the middle and come down and back up and then over and then come down in a long one and back up. You know, you can,
However you'd like to start and
yeah,
stop.
it's just kind of good to give yourself a little plan. So I'm going to start in the middle. So let's just play with this and see what happens if we start in the middle.
There really is no right or wrong.
Well, no, there isn't. And you don't want to go to the very edge again, because it doesn't look as nice if you go over the edge. But also, it's kind of nice to be sure that you're not going to shred the edge of your thing.
Your piece.
Yeah. Snip that off.
And so I don't know if we said in this video, but you're using a 30 weight sulky thread in the needle and a 50 weight matching sulky thread in your bobbin.
Exactly.
And then your needle size is a 90, is that correct?
It's a 90 because that accommodates the heavier thread passing through the eye of the needle, and it doesn't.
Can you use that same size when you're doing, like, let's say then you switch to piecing
You can.
and you're doing a 50 weight in the top and bottom?
Yeah, you can. It just gives it more room. So it's, I mean, that's okay. More room is better than wearing your pants too tight. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So you want to make sure that you can accommodate your thread.
This is like the drawstring pants of needles.
The yoga pants.
The yoga pants of needles. It works for everything.
Well, it does make a bigger hole sometimes too. And I can see that I didn't get that straight on the line. Naturally, you guys. When I'm trying to show somebody something, you do the worst thing sometimes.
This is really cute, Mom.
Thank you. But another thing, by ending in the... Oops, I'm sorry, guys. I bumped everything. By ending in the middle, you will... The button is going to go over the top of that. Now, where's my little crookedy line? Right there. See how there's a space in between that? It's probably not really going to show.
I can't see it, really.
I do. I see it. It bothers me. So I'm just going to come right up the middle of that again.
And cover it up.
Cover it up. And come back down. So now, essentially this one has 3 stitches on it. So...
But I will say this is much easier than trying to do a buttonhole stitch this small.
yes, buttonhole
So let's
stitching
take a
on
look.
something super tiny is really aggravating.
Looks cute.
How's that for better lighting?
I like it.
So your button will go in the center. It's going to be a yellow button. Now on the star, I can see that I did use a blanket stitch because I think it anchors it very nicely and it's not going to be raggy on the edge. If you want to do a straight stitch around that, I would suggest just go like 1/8 of an inch in and just stitch down. Don't go all the way to your point or it's going to shred. So just come down like 1/8 of an inch away from there and stop and then pivot back.
So just like a mirror image of the star inside.
Right. I don't know. Can I think of any other tips? Oh, one thing you do have to stitch across this top edge of the black, you know, across there because you want it to be...
You want to anchor down your hat.
Anchor it down. Yep. Anchor down your hat. And
then your
this-
buttons are at the end.
your buttons are at the end, and I would also stitch this the little base that he's standing on. I would stitch that after I did the feet and everything.
So again, follow the numbers on your applique placement and you'll be a piece of cake.
Yeah, because you probably put this down last, didn't you?
Well, it's a
Or
unit.
close to the end.
Yeah, this is one whole unit that goes
Uh-huh.
on together.
Okay, so that's it for the Buku Block 3. Next month is
Block 4.
And golly, what is Block 4?
Can't remember.
Is it a mummy?
No.
No.
It's a surprise.
It's a surprise, you guys.
I don't know. They're already boxed up. I don't remember.
Yeah. So anyway, you guys have fun with this. We hope this helps you. We do invite you to view all our other applique tutorials. We have lots of different projects that we've done applique on. So if you have a question, you may find it on one of those, or you're welcome to email us, and we'll be happy to help you.
Happy stitching.
Bye.